Hi everybody, Renegade 67 and/or 68 here with some more Let's Play and/or stream. Fate Stay Night and/or Unlimited Blade Works Blind. Just kidding. It's Fate Stay Night definitely and Unlimited Blade Works. There's no or. Ho ho. So, the big dilemma on this exciting installment of Fate Stay Night Unlimited Blade Works Blind is, are we mixing chocolate with peanut butter or chocolate with pasta? Pretty much. Because I think chocolate and peanut butter taste so good together. But chocolate and pasta separately are generally speaking my favorite foods. But when you put them together, that's pretty gross. I want to keep those separate, enjoy them separately. So the big question here is, because the thing is that Archer slash Shiro is chocolate, correct? So the question is Gilgamesh peanut butter or is Gilgamesh pasta? Because if he's peanut butter, oh boy, I can't wait to have both at once. But if he's pasta, ooh, I would have had them separately. Perfect analogy. 10 out of 10. I've had that in my mind since last Wednesday because I was planning to say it before even the Thursday. That didn't happen. But yeah, I'm very excited to see the Shiro facing Archer Shiro, facing the future Shiro. I'm also very excited for Gilgamesh to face Archer. Both of them. Hopefully, it'll be just as exciting with them together, if not more so. Alternatively, I could be like, oh, which I don't want. Although today's the no fun day, and that's a little joke for those who were here on the pre-stream on YouTube. You can be like, what the fuck's he talking about? Don't worry about it. So if I don't have fun, then hey, it's on brand. Um, mm, ah, ugh, so conflict that's been basically built up the whole VN. Which one? Okay, I think Shiro Archer has been built up longer, but Gilgamesh Archer's been built up a while too. So I've also had another thought in that after Castor got beaten, I was like, oh, so Archer will be like the big final villain. But then another part of me is like, how do they deal with the other characters? But now Gilgamesh has showed up, and Kira is still running around with Lancer, and Assassin might be around. If he got killed off screen again, that's kind of funny. Um, two, as long as he doesn't go 3 for 3. Um, but I know Castor's gone, so Assassin should be fading soon. But will he last long enough to do something? I don't know. Um, but what was I saying? Right. So, yeah, that's why I'm not. I don't know. I could definitely see a world where I'm starting to think because of the Gilgamesh that what they're gonna do is what I basically expected them to do, but with Castor before Archer went and was like, I'm gonna kill Shiro. My thought was with with Archer and Castor was that because Archer switches sides like a dirty traitor, like we think he's a bad guy, but he's actually a good guy, which is exactly what's going to be happening here, I think. But only that time, there's not going to be a double twist of, wait, he's even worse. Anyways, what I thought was going to happen was going to be like he'd do a thing, and then Kazuki would die, and then Castor would get all, ah! And then Castor would attack us, and then Archer would protect us, and he would pass on the Shiro-ness to Shiro. And I think that's now I'm again thinking that's going to happen, but instead of with Castor, I think it's going to be with Gilgamesh, where Archer would normally lose to Gilgamesh, but when Archer and Shiro, the future and past, work together, they're able to defeat Gilgamesh, and Archer has to pass on his Shiro-ness to Shiro. And Archer and Gilgamesh possibly both go down together, roughly. Now, the thing is, that does call into question, well, what about the actual Shiro off then? My current mindset is they're going to have a Shiro off for a while, but it's going to get interrupted because Gilly gets lazy or Shinji gets lazy or something, and then they go turn on Archer, on Gilgamesh. The other option is they fight Gilgamesh and beat him together, and then afterwards, then they go back to kicking each other's ass. That is an interesting idea. I just feel like that would make Gilgamesh too much of an afterthought with how much they've how big of a deal Gilgamesh is. I could see it though. I could see a world where the two Shiros team up to beat Gilgamesh, and then they're like, right, we still hate each other though. Let's go back to fighting, and then resolve it. They could do that. I just wouldn't expect it because of what a big deal Gilgamesh is. Um, but yeah, I feel like no matter what, in a way, Gilgamesh is likely going to cause the Shiro off to be slightly lessened, but I could be wrong. Maybe I'll be proven wrong. We'll see, we'll see, we'll see. So let's just actually continue. It's daybreak. I feel like no matter what, I should correct myself. No matter what, I think Archer is going to become the good side of the Force. I don't think Archer is going to end out evil. I just think there's a difference between Shiro has a big fight with Archer, and then at the end of it, Archer, just before he's dying, goes, "You know what? You're right. I was stupid. You are the future of blah, blah, blah." There's a difference between that and Archer changing sides, then fighting, then passing on as he dies against someone like Gilgamesh. So it's either as he's losing goes blah blah blah, or after switching sides dies but would have blah 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 and then double blah blah blahs. You know what I mean? So anyways, after the Castor thing, after he betrayed Castor, I was more thinking, oh, so we're just gonna beat him, and as he's losing, he's gonna go blah blah blah. But instead, now I'm thinking it's once again going to be a turn side, blah, 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 preemptively because of fighting someone else, blah, 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 versus fully resolves the blah, blah, blah. It's still possible he could have fully resolved the blah, blah, blah without dying. It could have just been like, you're right. Oh, you beat me in an emotional conflict, even though you couldn't physically beat me. Or maybe you did physically beat me. I will switch sides. And that could have happened without him dying. It's just unlikely, I think. And then they go and face Gilgamesh. But Gilgamesh is already here, so I feel the conflicts are inevitably going to do that without any breathing room. But anyways, another archer. Option fucking kills Shiro and Rin and becomes a proper protagonist. Sure. She has Saber already. She's got all qualifications. He's not evil, he's an antagonist. Sure. But like, what is evil? Evil is hard to fully quantify, especially when you're trying to do gray and gray morality. Like, Fate's Narrative has very much been quite gray. Even Castro, I thought, Kira is kind of black. But even Castro, I was like, oh, right, another black villain. Oh, nope, she's gray. But anyways, there is less conversation as we make our way through the forest, and the silence gets heavier. I, Emi Ashiro, must fight that man when we get to the castle. I mean, that's what I thought, but you don't know Gilgamesh is already there, so maybe you won't when you get to the castle. It's possible. There's no chance of victory, and a certain loss awaits. Except Gilgamesh, so you get to win somehow because Gilgamesh saves the day? I mean, unintentionally? Yeah. I know I'll just be killed once we start fighting. That's why you have to emotionally fight him. You'll never physically beat him. The only characters that are fully evil seem to be Gil and Kirei. I don't know if I'd even call Gil evil. Kirei definitely seems evil, for sure. Gil, I'd argue, is more neutral and just happens to enjoy Kirei's company. I don't know. I think it's hard to say. Based on my understanding of Gil, I think it's more he's neutral and just happens to enjoy the company of the bad guys. I know that in this timeline his goal seems to be I want less people around because there's too many people, but I don't think that's inherently evil. At least the reasoning behind why he wants to kill so many people. I know I'll just be killed once we start fighting. The only option Shiro can emotionally win is that he has all his memories and Archer doesn't seem to. I suppose that he has all his memories, but also there's the fact that, I don't know, Shiro could, I don't know, try to give some kind of like, haha, you think that your future mentality is correct, but you thought that my mentality was wrong, however, such and such. I think you would have to convince him through some amount of smarts, like, theoretically, if this was to fully happen and there was no Gilgamesh intervention, which I'm doubting at this point, I think the way Shiro would have to beat his future self is by showing him that maybe because of the Grail and his timeline jumping because of the Grail is something that maybe this Shiro has that Shiro didn't, which makes him actually smarter, so he can convince him, like, haha, you think that I'm going to just be stupid, but in fact, I have timeline knowledge, which he himself doesn't realize yet, but it's not about that, it's more about the general, it could be about that, but it's more about the general, I am smarter than you seem to remember me being, and I won't be the stupid. Or something along those lines. If he needed, that would be the turning point, theoretically. He wouldn't necessarily have to bring up he has timeline knowledge, because he doesn't even really know he has timeline knowledge, and he doesn't even really have timeline knowledge, per se. Just timeline experiences, I guess you could say. But, I know I'll just be killed once we start fighting. Dashes. I'm not scared, but it's not because I'm prepared for it. Are you sure? It's not because I'm prepared for it. It's because you don't care? What do you mean, you're not scared? If you talk about dying, that man is already dead. I suppose, sure. So what? You're accepting it because you know you'll die because he's you? It is equivalent for Emi Ashiro to be dead the moment I figured that out. I suppose, but everyone dies eventually. So there's no point in thinking like that. You have no idea when he died, how old he was. He could have been an elderly that was just summoned like that because the Grail was doing it for shits and giggles. Also, there's so many multiple timelines which maybe you don't understand, but like that could just be an archer from Shiro from one timeline where he dies young and you don't necessarily die young. So, like you're always gonna die eventually. So I don't think there's much logic there in being like, oh, I must have died to become a servant, therefore I die, therefore I don't care if I die. That means you should never ever care. Spoilers: everyone will die of old age eventually. Mm. Archer can just retort it as, it was never about attention, it was a willing choice that I made knowing the consequences. Yeah, but sure, Future Shiro could do that, but Future Shiro, I think, is clearly wavered in his actual choice. I think what he's doing is he's doing just to, because he's wanted it for so long to kill his past self because he hates his past self that badly. So I think if the past self can confirm that it's a combination of confirming that I'm not as stupid as you remember, but also I don't hate myself anymore, therefore you should stop with the hate boner, because if I no longer hate myself, you should no longer have to hate yourself. I think it's a couple of those things together. That being the case, I have no reason to worry. That's not how that works, I don't think, but okay. You not being worried because you are already dead is just accepting that Future Shiro is right, is what I would say. Because if you're accepting that version as the end of you, then you're accepting that you're a loser. You're going in not worried because it's not because you're prepared to lose. You've already accepted you're going to lose because you've admitted defeat. You're like, yes, Future Shiro is right. My current self is bad because you're bad. Don't accept that. That can just be a different Future Shiro. It doesn't have to be you. Or even if it is a different Future Shiro, you could accept that he's still Shiro and you still like him because, you accept all parts of you and all that. You are not me. Or no, you are me. No, yeah, you are not me is the wrong part. That happens before the you're me part. Anyways, we go through the castle gate. Saber looks gloomy, maybe because she knows what kind of a fight awaits us. I don't think she does know, unless she can sense Gilgamesh. What's troubling her is him and me. Mm-hmm. Shiro's got to break his fate. Uh-huh. No matter who gets killed and who survives, the one to be eliminated is the same. Not exactly, but sure, kinda, sorta. Her desire to stop this ridiculous fight is causing her pain. Mm-hmm. Is it? I don't think you fully understand Shiro, at least not in this timeline. Timeline 1 would have understood if you remember that knowledge, because Saber herself wants to erase her own past self. So, she can sympathize in a way to future Shiro, but she likes past Shiro. And yet, Shiro also likes the Saber, so it's not exactly the same because past Saber is actually 5 minutes ago from Saber's perspective. Not 5 minutes ago, literally, but you know what I mean. Whereas this Shiro, there is a long distance of time, but future Shiro doesn't actually know the exact distance of time, to be fair. Distance of time. Distance isn't about time. It's... whatever. Her desire to stop this ridiculous fight is causing her pain. This is just Shiro versus Shadow Shiro. Yeah. Her eyes stare at the sky sharply, and maybe she's angry at the meaningless battle. Maybe she's angry at her own meaningless battle. The hall is in ruin now. Is a ruin now. Past Zero's Saber is more like last week's Saber. Yeah, I guess in that case they're opposites then. Because, for even though a lot of time has actually passed, and for Saber stuff is chronology, she only remembers it as, oh yeah, that was the other week or whatever, not too long ago. So it's all super current for her, and she wants to erase it all because she hasn't really gained the maturity. With Shiro, it's basically the opposite, where he doesn't actually know how much time has passed. Saber knows how much time has actually passed. It's just not passed for her, I think. Roughly, she knows how much time has passed, I would say. She knows it's, much, much far into the future. Archer, though, because of how the servant system works, he doesn't actually know how many times he's been summoned. He just has this internal feeling of, oh, I hate this. So he doesn't actually know how much time has passed, or, because he's present, future, and all that. And yet, a lot of time, a lot of time clearly has passed in some form for him to have become this degraded. It's because of, to an extent, this maturity of a form that he now hates himself and wants to erase his past self. Because Saber wished herself to become a servant, doing it to erase her past self, essentially. But Shiro did it just to save people, and then only later on was like, oh my god, this is a big mistake. Fuck my past self. So, but there's definitely big parallels. Anyways, the hall is a ruin now. This place, covered with the morning mist, will become our place of death. Our place. You're accepting that you're one and the same, but you're not accepting in a good way, Shiro. You're not saying this is where you can get over yourselves. You're saying that this is where you accept your deaths, which is bad. That's not the bad way of accepting him as you. The good way, it should be, this is where we both have our rebirths and accept ourselves. More importantly, accept yourself.
来たか。随分と遅い到着だな、エミヤシロ。
You're finally here. You're late, Emiya Shiro. Who are you saying that to, me or yourself? You feel you're so late to actually getting to do this, You don't even know if you really are late. A cold voice echoes. The familiar voice comes from the second floor. Okay, so we don't run to Gilgamesh immediately. Alright. Okay. Alright. Okay. Alright. The man is standing at the top of the stairs, which are lit by the morning sun. There he is. His red outfit is far away, and his figure is hazy in the white glare. That's symbolic of the fact that you refuse to accept yourself, or he's a far away different version of you, so he's hazy. But he's still you, and you have to accept him as you. But not in a bad way. In a good way. Shiro, be healthy. Like yourself. But I can see him. Aha. Even though he's a distant version of yourself, you're accepting that he is indeed yourself. Just don't accept it in a bad way, please. I can see my enemy in detail. I think Archer would rather stab himself in the balls than admit they're the same person. I'm talking more about past Shiro. I'm sure future Shiro wouldn't want to, accept anything like that. That's the whole reason that past Shiro needs to be the one to encourage it. He needs to be the one to save future Shiro, as it were. Because as it is, I think, yeah, future Shiro is definitely too far gone. His whole goal is to kill past Shiro, basically just to make himself feel better, from what I can understand. Keep telling you to cheer up. Why aren't you happy yet? Yeah. I can see my enemy in detail. That should be the same for the man with the hawk eyes. Hawkeye Mihawk? Or do you mean Hawkeye from Full Metal Alchemist? Actually, there's probably multiple Hawkeyes. There's also... Wait, there's another Hawkeye. Hawkeye from MASH. So many Hawkeyes. So easy in Timeline 1, he just needed to fuck Saber. Maybe this is when we have our dragon sex with Archer, so to speak. Battle in the center of the mind? I said forever ago I was expecting Shiro would have to fight an evil version of himself, because it seemed like there was a super evil side or whatever, but I didn't think the super evil side was Archer. And I thought there would be a literal battle inside his mind, which maybe it's kind of sort of literal if he does his reality marble. Maybe that counts. Should be the same for the man with the hawk eyes. I didn't think the evil servant was Archer. I thought it was a different servant. It was Archer all along. The servant with the role of Archer given to him. Well, darn, I was sure you'd go for the Avengers. Oh, yeah, Hawkeye from... There's so many Hawkeyes! Hawkeye from DC as well. How do you even know what MASH was? My parents were big fans of MASH, so I've seen it occasionally. Also, I started watching Community recently, and on Netflix. And Abed talks about MASH in a couple episodes, but I knew about MASH by then already. Um, a hawk with hawk eyes. I like how Archer makes sure to stand there menacingly. Of course, he's got to play the part. Um, that's not the kind of mash I thought about. What kind of mash did you think about? All right, the servant with the role of Archer given to him. He is an archer, but not an archer, and he is a contradictory existence that has many noble phantasms, yet carelessly destroys them. Wow, that's deep. He is an archer, but not an archer. Hey, just like Gilgamesh. Just like you. He's a contradictory existence, just like you. Has many noble phantasms, just like Gilgamesh. Yet carelessly destroys them. I think Gilgamesh is careless with them, but they don't get destroyed because, he had all the real ones because he's a dirty cheater. With him, they get destroyed, but that's because he has to remake them every time. Although, theoretically, if he did it good enough, maybe he wouldn't have to, but, that's just the extent of the type of magic he's doing, I suppose. yeah, that eagle be like, who keeps stealing all my eyes? So many Hawkeyes. There's at least, 4 different Hawkeyes I know of. Archer's future Gilgamesh. I don't think that's how that works. There's definitely a parallel, though. You could say Shiro is future Gilgamesh. Gilgamesh is past Shiro. There's a character named Mash in one of the Fate things. Oh, I definitely don't know about that. We'd heard the dude with no self-esteem has the same power set as the dude with all the ego. It's a beautiful parallel. All his noble phantasms are duplications, and the fact that he's able to produce swords in an infinite number is his noble phantasm. I was the only one who did not realize his true identity. Are you sure? I mean, Rin knew for a while. I don't know that Saber knew for too long. Heroic spirits are summoned from every age. Oh, now you're going over the same spiel that Rin did. I think it might even be better if Shiro was to do this. Obviously we know that Shiro is Archer by this point. It's been pretty obvious for a little bit. They've been holding off on the proper reveal. However, Rin basically spelled it out in her interlude not long ago. I think it would be better if Rin was a little more tongue-in-cheek about it, because I think Shiro accepting it and that being the official reveal is when Shiro accepts it would be the best way to handle it, in my opinion. But heroic spirits are summoned from every age. If nobody from the past corresponds to him, then the heroic spirit must be from the future.
ようやく気づいた。あのペンダントが2つあるはずがない。あれはもともと。
I mean, I realized the second I saw it, because I'd had that theory for a while, but I finally realize now. There shouldn't be 2 of that pendant. That pendant is...
そうだ。あれは命を救われたお前が生涯持ち続けたもの。この世に2つとない。遠坂凛の父の形見だ。
Yes, that is the pendant you held on to throughout your life after you were saved. It is the one and only memento of Tosaka Rin's father. But did it also eventually just become a memento of Tosaka Rin herself? It's impossible that 2 such pendants should exist. If Emiya Shiro held on to the pendant throughout his life, as he says, then...
英霊の召喚には必ず触媒が必要となる。
A catalyst is always needed to summon a heroic spirit. Oh. Are you saying that was your catalyst? Well, yeah, you were summoned before Shiro was stabbed. I guess that works. Huh. And technically it was still full of magical energy at the time. That's, fucky-wucky, but sure. Huh. Yeah, I guess that makes sense. Catalyst is always needed to summon heroic spirit. In hindsight, yeah, I mean, for example, Saber's sheath should be needed to summon Saber. However, I mean, even, I guess there is always some kind of catalyst. But Archer's catalyst could have been a lot of things. It didn't necessarily have to be an actual physical thing necessarily. I mean, now that we know in hindsight, but I don't think there was anything much to theorize about at the time, unless you were reaching, I suppose. We'd heard the dude with no self-esteem. Is it, though? Check their images, identical faces. Okay, now you guys are talking about something else. The pendant became a part of Shiro's identity. A catalyst is always needed to summon a heroic spirit.
お前がセイバーを召喚したように、召喚者と英霊にはつながりがなくてはならない。
As when you summon Saber, there has to be a connection between the summoner and the one summoned. And in that case, it was conveniently, you had a sheath inside of your body. You still have it in this timeline, by the way. Shiro, it's in there.
遠坂凛には英霊を呼び出すための触媒がなかった。
Tosaka Rin did not have a catalyst to summon heroic spirit, and yet she still thought she'd get Saber. I mean, if the time wasn't fucked up, would she still have gotten Saber? Or was the time fucked up the moment she... That's a question I've wondered for a long time. Because the clocks in her house got fucked up when she solved her thingamajigger, and she forgot to fix them. Which sort of goes in line with the idea that... I talked about this a long time ago. The time, because the time was wrong, that goes to the idea of the theory that Shiro is Archer. Or someone from the future is Archer. Because the time was off, she summoned someone not from her time, but from a different time. Or a different timeline. I talked about those ideas way long ago. The time went off not because of the summoning. The time was off, which led to the summoning in theory. So was something fucky-wucky going on the moment she unlocked the thing? Maybe there's the idea there that... Didn't she have that pendant all along, or did she get that from the safe? I forget how long she's had that pendant for. But if she got it from the safe, that would be fitting. The thing that she had to open that caused the time to fuck up. If she did... If she did, then that would be fitting. That when she opens it, the time fucks up because the pendant is related to... Maybe it's already inevitable she's going to use that and summon Shiro. Possibly, that would be a certain case of an inevitability, but that begs the question if she did remember to fix the time, or was there never a timeline where she remembered to fix the time because she's not that kind of person. But if she did remember to fix the time, would she potentially have summoned Saber, or would that be impossible? Questions. Tosaka Rin did not have a catalyst to summon heroic spirit.
ゆえに彼女は呼び出したサーバントに何の縁もないと思い込んだ。
Therefore, she thought that she had no connection with the servant she summoned. But she was wrong. She got it right about before the war. Oh, so she did get it from the thingy from her will of her father's will. That was what that was from. Okay, that's pretty fitting then. So she didn't have it. She didn't have the original for long before it went to Shiro for most of his life. That's funny. Even though she's had the fake longer than the original at this point, probably. Because she only unlocked it like the day before we started seeing her is when she unlocked it, right? Something like that. So she only had the real thing for something like a couple days, and the war has been going on for a few weeks. So she's had the fake for longer than the real one at this point. That's kind of funny. I mean, it's not fake, it's still real, but you know what I mean. Therefore, she thought she had no connection with the servant she summoned.
だが偶然で呼び出される英霊などいない。召喚者と英霊には必ず物質的な縁が必要となる。
But no heroic spirit is summoned by chance. A physical connection is absolutely necessary between the summoner and the heroic spirit. Dash dash. If he's right, there can only be one answer. If Tosaka did not have a catalyst connected to Archer, then... But she did have a catalyst. Or did... Because she... Or what?
そう。召喚者ではなく、呼び出された英霊そのものが、召喚者に縁のあるものを持っていた場合のみだ。
Oh, I see what you're saying. It is when the heroic spirit has a catalyst connected to the summoner. Oh, because he had the jewel thing from her. That's the catalyst. I understand. But he still had the catalyst when she summoned him, so I thought that might have counted. I think it doesn't necessarily matter, because there would have been doubles by that point regardless. At that point. Dash. The jewel is only one of his kind. Of course, that does beg a couple questions into account, because, you know, she ends up giving the jewel to Shiro, and Shiro ends up having it the whole time, and then she summons him because he has the jewel, but he only has the jewel because she gave Shiro the jewel because she summoned. But to be fair, though, if she had never summoned Archer, she maybe never would have gotten into that exact kerfuffle and never would have given it to Shiro. So I guess it's fair. She gives it to Shiro because she summoned Archer. If she never summoned Archer, maybe she never would have given it to Shiro. I guess that's a fair thought experiment. But there's always a timeline existed where she did summon him and give it to Shiro. Or even maybe a timeline does exist where she gives it to Shiro, theoretically in some alternate pseudo. Maybe it's not a real reality, but it's a plausible pseudo reality. I don't know how exactly how the timelines work in this universe, but it could be that because such a timeline can exist, there's no plot contradiction or no universe contradiction with the fact that he only has it sort of because Rin summoned Archer from, and that's what led to Rin giving in the first place. It's not technically that way, but it theoretically could have been that way, so it allows it even if it never actually is that way. You know, without summoning Archer from the future, she still ends up giving it to Shiro, that is to say. Because such a theoretical does exist, maybe the circumstance is allowed without creating a universe contradiction, if the universe even cares about such contradictions. The jewel is the only one of its kind. My life was saved, but I did not know who saved me. Except at the beginning of the timeline, you did. You said, oh, it's Rin who saved me. You kind of knew already. Was that your timeline knowledge showing that you had more than just your experiences? Was that a little glimpse of that, even though you should have not remembered? So I held on to the pendant which I thought belonged to my savior. That's the answer. That in itself is a bit of a contradiction, though, because as I was saying, Shiro seemed to know right away in this timeline that Rin saved him. Because the idea is that I did not know who saved me. There's no way you would have... I guess you could have seen Rin later and then been like, oh, Rin saved me. But it seems a bit more likely to me that maybe it is a bit of a hint of the timeline knowledge. Basically, the bootstrap paradox isn't actually a paradox. Ain't no rule that says things have to come from somewhere. I suppose that's true. Things don't always have to come from somewhere, but it depends on how the universe works. You know, it's potentially that it does work that way. I know what the bootstrap paradox is, and I understand, you know, the arguments for and against and all that. But technically, we currently live in a universe where technically it doesn't have to be entirely bootstrap. It could be that there is a version of Archer that exists based off Shiro that's close enough to this version that a different version even could have gotten summoned that still would have ended up with the pendant even if a future Archer was never summoned in such a timeline. It's technically still possible that could be true, but Shiro was saved by the present pendant, not the future pendant. I mean, yes. However, like... that circumstance didn't come about until after Archer was already summoned, which is what makes it a little iffy. But anyways, that's the answer. If he has Tosaka's pendant, then there's only one person who he can be. I don't think that's technically true. It's based on other evidence as well, but sure. Heroic Spirit Emiya. Okay, so that's what we're going to call him now? Is his name in our thing yet? I don't think so. No, still not. The future me. Finally, he admits it. He waited until actually confronting him here to admit it. All this time he's been putting it off because he hates it, but now he's forced to. That does show us an interesting insight into his mental state, that he was, like, he knew, and he would verbalize that he knew, and even internalize that he knew to an extent, but he would never allow himself to admit internally, oh yeah, that's future me. So he only does it right when confronted with him. It says how much he doesn't want it, I suppose. Now that he admits he's Archer, they can finally have a frank talk? Assuming it doesn't go straight to a fight. The heroic spirit before me is Emiya Shiro, who perfected his skills and made his ideal come true. And then regretted all of it. And yet, internally, you still call him Archer. The knight in red, Archer looks down at me from the top of the stairs. Interesting how you worded that. Heroic spirit Emiya, the future me. The heroic spirit before me is Emiya Shiro. Alright. He's still not fully accepting it. Or I guess if he is, he just wants to refer to him as something other than himself because he himself is Emiya Shiro. That's also fair if he's doing that. Archer looks down at me from the top of the stairs. There's no one around him. I mean, unless Gilgamesh can hide his power level, which maybe he can. I feel like Saber and or Lancer would sense something. He's standing alone in this vast hall. Calling him Emiya, not heroic spirit Shiro. Interesting giving him the name Emiya, because that ties him back to Kiritsugu, which, you know, he's pretty close to Kiritsugu. His surface level is like Kiritsugu, but when you dig deep down, he is more the opposite. Because Kiritsugu, you know, I've talked about this, but Kiritsugu wanted to, did dirty things because he thought that was a good way to save people. Whereas Shiro wanted to save people without doing things, but then realized it wasn't really working well, so he started doing dirty things, and then became cynical because he's like, oh, so my ideal was wrong all along. And he started to, so it's kind of like, they're doing things, but it's like different. Kiritsugu's like, I will cynical myself to be the hero, whereas he got cynical because he was being the hero. The Emiya last name being the representation of his ideal of being a hero he inherited from his dad. That's also true. He's standing alone in this vast hall.
Archer, Tosaka wa doushita?
Archer, where's Tosaka? Still calling her not Rin, hmm?
あの小娘なら城のどこかに置いてきたが、気に病むのなら急げ。お前が来るのが遅いのでな、先に来た的を信じにくれてやったところだ。
To be fair, you don't really call people by their first name. Oh, when you're doing like Mr. or Sir or Master, I suppose. But yeah, that he does have some familiarity with himself. I have left her somewhere in this castle. You should hurry if you're worried about her. You were late, so I gave her to Mato Shinji, since he came earlier. Oh, fuck. What is this? Is this a play? Are you saying, oh, you can go save him now, wink, save her now, wink, wink, nudge, nudge? Or are you saying you have to beat me to save her, prove that you're worthy? Because that is quite a thing. That's really giving into some darkness, I would argue. Or pretending to give into darkness, as Gilgamesh would say, being a faker. Out of anyone, I think you would call yourself by your first name. Joke's on you, I call myself Renegade in these streams. And my first name is 67. Magic Hero Spirit John. Archer confirmed actually evil. Yep. Basically. Heroic Spirit Smith would be vague too. Johnson and Johnson. なんだと?
お前との約束は守っている。俺は手出しはせん。
I kept my promise with you. I won't harm her. You fucking bitch. Did you really? Oh, are you that far gone? Oh, I didn't think you were that far gone. I don't think he's actually that far gone, but like he's lying to himself that he's that far gone. He's putting his want to kill his past self over how much he wants to protect Rin, which I think is going to fuck him up in the fight. And I think that's going to give Shiro the emotional high ground. And I don't know, it might be one of those things where Archer lets himself lose, as it were, to let Shiro save Rin. But like, it feels a little weak sauce to me, because that means, again, the prodding from Gilgamesh, or in this case Shinji, is making himself lose the inner conflict, if that's what happens. I could be wrong. I kept my promise with you, I'll not harm her.
他の人間が彼女に何をしようが、
But it does
俺には
not
関わりのないことだ。
concern me what other people do to her. You dirty liar. It totally concerns you. You're Shiro. You like her. You jerk.
まあ、結果は見えているがな。的真司は遠坂凛に情欲と敵がいを抱いている。あれに凛を預ければどうなるかは考えるまでもない。凛に挑発された小僧は我慢できずに口火を切り、今頃は妙なことになっているかもしれんぞ。
But the result is pretty obvious. Mato Shinji feels hatred and lust towards Tosaka Rin. One does not need to think what he will do to her. He might not be able to restrain himself if she provokes him. So he might be doing something unnatural right now. Oh boy. Pretty obvious. Mato Shinji feels hatred and lust towards Rin. One does not need to think what he'll do to her. And yeah, Rin would be the feisty type, as it were. And Shinji wouldn't like that. He would want them to be obedient. And when they aren't obedient, he would go even further, as it were. When they say stop, that's when he goes on even harder. He's that kind of fucked up person, in theory. I think he's bluffing. I don't know. I feel like he's going out of his way to provoke Shiro to get a reaction. But I don't know that here's my current thinking. I still have faith in future Shiro. I could be wrong, but I want to say for now I have faith in future Shiro, and I think that this is a lie to get a reaction out of past Shiro to see how he feels about it. Because if he's actually letting that happen, wow, that's fucked up. I know that, like, okay, I know that Shinji said that he would do it, but maybe off screen after Gilgamesh said Faker, maybe there's two things that could have happened. Off screen, he could have actually tried to resolve the situation. Maybe off screen, he killed Gilgamesh. Or convinced Gilgamesh to kill Shinji or something. Or option two is that when Gilgamesh called him Faker, he's like, oh yeah, I'll show you who's a faker. And he did do sort of an I'll make you eat those words, but in the dark direction, where he decided maybe he did. Maybe originally, when he said to Shinji that he was gonna, let Shinji have his way with him, maybe at that time he was still thinking of a way to save Rin. But then when Gilgamesh called him out as being a faker, maybe he detested that so much that he's like, oh yeah? Fuck you, I'll actually let it happen then. Just because he hated the idea that he was just faking, that he didn't actually, that he was still holding on to, that he was like past Shiro still. He hated that notion so much that when Gilgamesh called him out for being a faker, maybe he's like, oh yeah? Then I'll actually go through with it. And he's still kind of faking, but it's pretty dark if that is what happened. Which is, I think, now that I'm thinking about it, I don't think they'd off-screen Gilgamesh. So I think that's more than likely what's happening. Which, I can get it, but that's still pretty fucked up, Archer, if that is what he's doing. The other option is, yeah, he's trying to get a rise out of Shiro. Which, because we saw the scene where Shinji said he's going to do that, makes the rise perspective less likely. He would kill his identity as Shiro by doing the most non-Shiro thing. Leaving Rin to get raped? Or you're overthinking it and he doesn't care because he's dead inside. That's possible, but I'm highly doubting it. Because I don't think there's any way Shiro can physically beat his future self. And I don't think the timeline is just going to end with Shiro losing or Saber and Lancer stepping in. I feel like Shiro's going to have a proper Shiro off and he's going to win somehow. And to win, I feel like he has to convince on some level, which means this can't be fully evil Shiro. And if it is, then I think Shiro has to give up on beating him one-on-one. But I feel like he's going to beat him one-on-one. But maybe I'm wrong. He might be doing something unnatural right now. Dashes. I get pissed off. How can he say such a thing so calmly?
Ah, 焦るな、坊主。あのお嬢ちゃんなら俺に任せろ。
Oh, don't get impatient, kid. Leave that girl to me. Well, you are one to care about her.
何すぐに助け出してやる。
I'll go save her. If you fight Gilgamesh again, it'll just be a repeat of last time. Maybe this time you'll have Saber with you, though.
ランサー
The most realistic outcome is them killing each other. You mean with Archer and Shiro? I don't think past Shiro is good enough to face future Shiro, but future Shiro, because he's Shiro and still hates himself, might let past self fight him to a draw. Maybe his plan is to have them kill each other, and in which case past Shiro has to see through that, as it were. Concurrent Shiro beat 10% Archer in an actual battle. Oh, that's right. That's true. This Archer is weakened, but still. Unlikely. Lancer?
マスターからの命令だな。元から俺はあのお嬢ちゃんを死なせないために協力したわけだ。
Oh. It's an order from my master. The entire reason for joining you is to keep that girl from dying. And I know your master is Kirei. Which means probably because Kirei's got some fucked up plan for her? I mean, Gilgamesh is already doing something with her, and Gilgamesh and Kirei are theoretically on the same side, but not necessarily. this could lead into the whole Kirei's gonna admit to, Rin that I killed your father. Maybe that's gonna come up, but he has about as much mana in him as actual Shiro.
いや、これが思いのほか居心地よくてな。昨日のは悪くなかった。自分の仕事を気に入れるっていうのは俺にとっては珍しい。
This was rather comfortable. I didn't feel bad yesterday. It's rare for me to like my job. Unfortunately, probably what comes at the end of that is something grody you just don't understand. Gary's probably keeping her alive for some, to do something twisted with her. Just like how we tried to do the twisted thing with Shiro in Timeline 1. Shiro and Saber, he was like, Shiro, you could go back and blah, blah, blah. He might be planning to do that with Rin in this timeline instead. I could see that. Archer intelligence and combat strats heavily outstrip Shiro. Yeah, I'd agree with that. With those words, Lancer ignores Archer and heads to the West Terrace. What about Saber?
ランサー
If you fight Gilgamesh and die off screen again, that's gonna be lame. Just thought I'd point that out. I mean, out of universe and in universe. Although in universe, Shiro wouldn't know that.
気にするな。これはあくまで俺の趣味だ。
Don't worry about it. I'm doing this out of my own interest. Then again, this is different because in Timeline 1, Lancer had a strong urge to fight Gilgamesh. Lancer felt cornered in Timeline 1. There's a difference because in Timeline 1, Lancer's like, I'm going to turn on Kirei. He had accepted not liking his master anymore. So in a way, because he was doing the dishonorable thing, I don't think he cared as much if he died. He was still going to try his best to beat Gilgamesh, probably. But probably somewhere deep down, he accepted his death. In this timeline, though, he's more saving Rin, and he's more willing to get away. Whereas in the other timeline, I don't think he ever cared about getting away. In this one, so I could see him just getting Rin and getting away, and Gilgamesh failing, as it were. If Kirei is ordering this, I assume Gil won't interfere. Debatable. It depends how in the same wavelength Gil and Kirei are. Because again, they enjoy each other's company, but whether or not they have the exact same interests is debatable. I'm doing this in my own interest.
まあ、今までいけすかねえ命令ばっかりだったからな。この命令は最後まで守り抜く。そっちはそっちで自分の面倒だけ見てやがれ。
Well, I've been given many disgusting orders up till now, so at least follow through on this. You can concentrate on your own affairs. Yes, indeedy. Thank you, Lancer. You're a cool bro. Please don't get killed by Gilgamesh off screen again. I don't believe it'll happen, for multiple reasons, but it'd definitely be lame.
ああ、遠坂を頼む。
Okay, I'm leaving Tosaka to you. He lightheartedly replies with a yes. In English, yes. Then, Lancer stops and turns around as if he remembered something. Oh?
おい、何してんだセイバー。お前も来るんだよ。
Yeah, that way I won't get killed by... No, I don't think even if he went alone, I don't think he'd get killed this time. Even if Gilgamesh doesn't care about Kirei's wants, because he's more interested in saving someone than he is, just fighting to the death. I do think that Lancer would get away. Anyways, but yeah, why wouldn't Saber come too? What are you doing, Saber? You're coming too. Oh, she cares too much about the Shiro off. I get it, Saber. But, you gotta save your master. Saber lowers her eyes painfully.
いいえ、私はここに残ります、ランサー。
Saber, you can't do that. You just heard that your master might be getting raped. Granted, if you have a strong enough connection, maybe you can feel that nothing terrible is happening to her. That's possible. Maybe Saber knows that nothing that bad's happening to her, which maybe means either she got away off screen or she kicked Shinji. I don't know, Gilgamesh let it happen because he didn't give a shit or he was doing something else. Or Archer actually did do something to prevent that from happening off screen we didn't see and he's actually just trying to prod past Shiro. I'll stay here, Lancer. Lancer does have his weird restart skill, and he's just got good agility in general. She's standing next to me and replies, unlike a servant. Very unlike a servant. This is more like a worried friend.
本気か？今のマスターはお嬢ちゃんだろ？サーバントが守るべきはマスターだけのはずだが。
I understand why Saber wants to see this. Yeah, it also could inform her on her wish. Still, though, Your master, this is like, to be fair though, as honorable as Saber is, she's doing it all for a dumb wish. And if this can help her come over her dumb wish, then maybe disregarding your honor is worth it. However, this is a big deal. Especially if you know it's a big deal. But if internally you don't feel the big deal, because you're supposed to feel the connection with your master, then maybe it's okay? Are you serious? That girl's your master now, right? You should be protecting your master.
分かっています。ですが、それでも私はここに残りたい。
Oh boy.
私はこの戦いを見守らなければ。
I understand that, but I still would like to stay here. I need to watch over this fight. Still acting like the Shiro master instead. Wait, not the master, other way around. Even though Shiro in Timeline 1 wished it wasn't.
そうかよ。なら好きにしな。
Fine, do as you wish. Yeah, Saber did try to kill Rin a while back. Or rather, would have tried if he hadn't used his command spell in this timeline. In Timeline 1, she tried. In Timeline 2, he stopped it before it got to that point. Anyways, fine, do as you wish. Lancer leaves. He easily jumps up the terrace and disappears into the passageway. Archer does not do anything. It's as if he's saying Tosaka is useless now. Dashes. I step over the rubble and walk forward. I'm heading to the center of the room at the foot of the stairs. Forcing down her emotion, Saber stands still to watch over our battle.
手出しはしないか。それはありがたい。
You won't do anything, huh? That's good. Saber won't interfere? That's very good, because you're definitely weakened on power right now. Although, given how much Saber likes Shiro, she wouldn't want to kick this Shiro's ass. In the moment, she was just focused on saving past Shiro, but then when she had time to reflect, she's like, oh, both Shiros, And also, she gets it. Shiro explained it to her, so.
ここまで来てセイバーに邪魔をされるようでは、リンと契約を切った意味がないからな。
If Saber interrupts me right now, I'll have broken my contract with Rin for nothing. Dashes. I can hear Saber's hesitation. Saber takes a quick breath and replies to the man at the top of the stairs. She could. She could, but also, it just gets to the heart of Shiro's grody-ness. No matter what reasoning, if Tosaka is getting assaulted, definitely the lowest we've seen Shiro, it's also potentially the lowest we've seen Saber. Because, like, Saber should feel if she's getting something fucked up. So she's choosing to ignore that to oversee this. Maybe not the lowest we've seen Saber, but the most conflicted we've seen her. If she's actually feeling internally something bad happening with Rin. And if she's not feeling anything internal, why? You're supposed to have an internal connection. Anyways, she takes a quick breath and replies to the man at the top of the stairs.
ええ、私は手出しをしません。何があろうと、あなたとシロの戦いの邪魔はしない。
I will not interfere. I will not do anything during your battle with Shiro.
それは結構。ならば安心して、小僧を始末できるというものだ。
Very good. I can kill him at ease. In my opinion, the lowest we saw Saber is her killing Shiro. Oh yeah, I forgot about that. That was the lowest. That was definitely the lowest. This is the most conflicted she's been, I would say, if that's the truth. Because when she killed Shiro, she was not conflicted. Well, she was conflicted when she did that, but clearly not conflicted enough because she went through with it. Very good. I can kill him at ease.
はい。ですが、その代わりに一つだけ答えてほしい。
I'm curious about this too. Yes.
なぜあなたはシロを殺そうというのです。
But please answer me before that. Why are you trying to kill Shiro? Shiro?
なぜも何もないだろう。そいつが俺を認められないように、俺もそいつを認められないだけだよ。
So is it really something so emotional, despite all your practical preaching? When it really comes down to it, you're just in the mood to kill yourself? I guess, to be fair, deep down, I think he wanted to hurt himself a lot too, but was putting it off for so long because, like, I should help people, you know, to make the life that was saved worth something. And now in the future, he's like, no, it was just a dumb life. Saving someone didn't lead to anything good. Just kill yourself. I'll do it for you. Maybe he thinks he's doing past him a favor. There's nothing to explain. Just as he cannot approve of me, I too cannot approve of him. You mean you can't approve of yourself? That's what you're really getting at?
そんなはずはない。あなたはシローだ。エミやシローという人物の理想、英雄となった姿があなたではないのですか。ならどうしてこんな自分を殺すような真似をするのです。
That cannot be true. You're Shiro. You're the ideal of Emiya Shiro. Fucked up ideal. The one who became a hero. So why are you trying to kill yourself? That's what I was saying for a long time. Shiro's got a big death wish. This is just future Shiro coming to make the death wish come true. He's gonna make Shiro's real wish come true. Finally, he's doing something selfish. He's making his wish come true.
なぜそう思う？未熟だった頃のエミヤシロとエミヤと呼ばれる英雄となった俺は別の存在だ。そうでなければ同時に存在などできないが。
Why do you think? The hero called Emiya and the inexperienced Emiya Shiro are two separate beings. We cannot exist at the same time, unless that is the case. But you're not accepting that you're separate beings, and that's why you're refusing to exist at the same time? Because that's what you're saying, right? Because you're saying we can't exist at the same time unless that's the case. But now you're saying you're accepting that you're not separate beings because you've gained your memories, which is why you can no longer exist at the same time? I suppose, but I think that's deflecting. I think you do accept that you're the same, and that's why you hate your past self so much. To be fair, Shiro's suicidal nature has been less blunt in this timeline. In Timeline 1, Shiro's suicidal nature was more on the nose, and Saber did notice it at a certain point. But, yeah, Shiro's become a little smarter since Timeline 1. As such, his suicidal nature has been less obvious. So Saber never really picked up on it in this timeline, I don't think. We cannot exist at the same time unless that is the case.
それはあなたがサーバントになったからでしょ。時間軸にとらわれない守護者になったのなら、自身が生きた時代に呼ばれることもあると聞きます。
Oh, look at her. Looking up to Shiro now like he's the, in a way, he is the veteran in that case because Saber's still not a real girl servant. I mean, she is a real girl, but she's not a real fake. She's trying to make herself a real servant. I've become more subtle with me killing myself. Which is all the more reason why this archer to come back in time. Hey, you gotta drop that subtlety. You really do need to kill yourself. You took a step in the wrong direction. That's because you became a servant. I heard that guardians can be summoned into the age in which they lived, since they are not bound to the time access. I think you're missing the point of what he's saying, Saber. Or you're deliberately missing the point.
あなたはシローだ。シローがずっと思い描いて、その努力が叶った姿があなたのはずだ。なのに、どうして？
You are Shiro. You should become the personification of his ideal. The person he became after much hard work, so why? I mean, you know, pot talking to the kettle, right? You picked up the sword because you wanted to save your country, and now you want to go undo all that. She finishes in a broken voice. Maybe that's why she is so broken, because she knows that, you know, it's a pot kettle situation. Why are you so different? Is he so different? Dash, dash. Ooh, what's that scraping in the background? The hell is that? Because, like, this song I recognize, but there was some, like, weird scraping in the background? Or is that always there? Am I crazy? Am I losing it? Is this a remix? Is it not? Anyways, dashes. Oh boy. Not responding, he starts down the stairs. Oh, it begins. It's beginning. It's doing a beginning. How long have we been going for? An hour. It's beginning. Also, let's do as he comes down the stairs. Oh, there's actually some interesting archers just sure if you stripped off a few layers. Yeah. Coming down the stairs is interesting. Because it's like he's at the top of the stairs, I'm at the bottom. The metaphor there is that that's the end of Shiro. After you go up the stairs, that's where you achieve. And now he's coming back down the stairs to meet his past self, to kill his past self. There's some metaphors there. Where were we? This was 7th day. Oh, I like Taitaru. The Shiro off begins. The Shiro off. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Okay, so the Shiro off is beginning, and this seems like a cool thing that I want to do. I kind of want to do the Shiro off all in one big stream. However, I have to not go for very long today for reasons. So, and I also was going to stop short anyways. So, I'm going to take this beat of Shiro walking down the stairs. Very short, but I said today was going to be short. So, although for a YouTube video, this would be closer to normal. It'd be even a little bit on the long side for an uploaded YouTube video length. You know, when I'm not counting my streams. But I am going to stop here, actually, yeah. I feel like this is getting me back in the Shiro Jitters mood for tomorrow. But for today, I am going to stop short. So, I will see you guys next time. Still don't have an outro phrase. We're about to offing the Shiro. Shiro's about to off himself. Hopefully, not actually. But metaphorically, there's going to be some Shiro offing. It's going to be popping. We just have to see how much of that we get. Do we get the full thing, maybe, and the Lancer Gilgamesh is completely off-screen? I feel like if they were going to completely off-screen the Lancer Gilgamesh, they would just put off Gilgamesh even interrupting till after the Shiro off. So I think it's going to intervene at some point. Or rather, we're going to intervene, we're going to convince future Shiro, and then towards the end of the fight, he's like, you're right, we should help out. And then we go help out Lancer and Rin as they're fighting Shinji and Gilgamesh, or something? Maybe. Maybe. But yeah, see you guys next time. Still another phrase. Stop recording.